What's going on, everyone? Welcome into a special edition of Respect Her Game. I hope everyone is enjoying their Labor Day, and we're here to keep you entertained on Labor Day. We've got 4 of our best of best interviews that you guys do not want to miss, starting with one of my favorite human beings. It's going to be Alanna Rizzo breaking down, her brilliant mind when it comes to her journey through the MLB. She was also part of the legendary and historic all-female Red Sox broadcast. And then another name that you should know, and hopefully you guys saw her hang out with us here on Respect Her Game. It's Ellis, another great mind when it comes to hockey. She talks about her journey, not only through BU, but kind of establishing herself through creative content and the lens that it takes to continue to grow her brand. So that's just 2 of the 4 that I teased. You're going to want to stick with us here on Respect Her Game to run through the 4 best of the best.
I'd love to ask you a little bit more about just the BU hockey experience, because I went to BC, but I couldn't go to a ton of the cool Beanpot games at TD because I was playing in my own game. So do you have a standout memory from your time with the BU team?
Oh my gosh, so many. Specifically with the Beanpot, something that's super funny that I know everyone around here is going to love was one of our years there. We make it to the finals, it's overtime, it's the juiciest thing ever, and we weren't winning for BU. I think we went on the longest streak of not winning a Beanpot in a while. And we were in overtime and we get called on a trip. Jordan Harris, the biggest dive I've ever seen in my life for Northeastern. He legit is like Michael Phelps out there. We get called for a trip, and this guy, I was like, this was the dream week. Everything was going perfect. I was finally gonna get to celebrate a Beanpot, and this guy legit decides to dive into an Olympic swimming pool, and then they score, and Northeastern wins their 300th Beanpot in the last 3 years. But yeah, Jordan Harris was #1 on my hit list, and then I met him, and I'm obsessed with him, and now I'm really good friends with him, and I'm so pumped that he's gonna be a Boston Bruin, and I'm like, take your swimming skills, we can use them on the Bruins. I'm rooting for you.
They're acceptable now.
Yeah.
Of all the things.
Now I'm rooting for them.
Wait, so I have to ask from a human perspective, because with your passion behind hockey, is there a moment where you feel like you have to separate cheering in the moment for something, or just being so ecstatic about something, but you have to be in reporter mode? Because I have been challenged emotionally during playoffs, because I'm from Tampa Bay, and sitting in some of those situations and people next to me, I'm like, do not react, and I want them to turn away from me so I can lose my mind.
Yeah, no, 100%. That's almost training you have to go through. And now when I'm not working and I'm just at one of my boyfriend's games, I forget that I can cheer when he scores. I'm like, oh my God, this is so fun.
You're in broadcast mode and you're like, wait a second.
Yeah, exactly. It literally requires training to see the craziest play happen and just be like, and go.
Poker face, I love that. But what you've really been able to take advantage of is social media. And I know this is something that a lot of maybe even young women would love to find a place in sports media in using social media. So how have you used that as a tool to help you get to where you are now?
It's really been everything for me, and it's so crazy because I feel like there was no blueprint for what I wanted to do. Actually, when I was at BU working for the hockey team, whenever I had free time, I'd just make hype videos for them because nobody was doing that at the time. And I remember handing it over to our creative director and being like, I make these really cool hype videos. Do you want to do anything with them? And he's like, yeah, we'll post them on the Instagram. And I was like, you're gonna post my videos on the BU hockey Instagram? What? And we did it so frequently that they ended up hiring a video producer, which they had never had before. And I remember also, this was back in, it must have been 2020, I really wanted to make the team a TikTok account because they didn't have one. And my boss at the time was like, we don't know the future of TikTok. We're not gonna waste time and resources on TikTok. Fast forward to today, of course they have a TikTok account, right? And it's literally my whole career, and I'm so thankful for it. And it's been so amazing to just kind of do trial and error with social media. And now I really post all of my content primarily goes on social media. And I feel so thankful that it has found an audience and grown the way that it's grown, especially with TikTok, because I think there's a lot of people out there that wouldn't have found me organically if I didn't just pop up on their For You page.
Yeah, and I think the TikTok part is so strong, but kind of sticking with that. When I first got here, weirdly enough, I got a chance to talk at BC to a class, and they were just kind of asking for advice, and I was like, I think take advantage of social media. You have a lot of networks that are kind of trying to find that balance between digital and linear, and to see the confidence of somebody creating their identity on social media, I think is huge. That can actually play into your resume these days. So what advice would you have? Because some of the questions that I got in return was just kind of what if it's weird, or what if it's awkward, or what if I'm not doing it right? And I know when I did it, I'm so corny for like words. Like I'll do things to consider to do hockey breakdowns, but it's consider with a K. And I was like, you have to just lean into it because you don't know what's going to pick up. So how did you know what to lean into? Or like, how do you find that confidence to just be like, I'm having fun with this and whatever happens, happens?
I love that you said that because it is exactly that. It's trial and error and being willing to take risks that maybe they feel uncomfortable, but that might be what hits the best. And really analyzing what's doing well and what's not. The things that I thought would do so well in the beginning might not have panned out. And then something that I'm like, I don't even know if I want to post this. I think it's going to stay in the drafts I throw up. That could be what goes viral. So I think it's really sitting and analyzing what people are liking and building off of that. I've done that for so much content, and that's like what I'm doing now is not what I envisioned I'd be doing 3 years ago, and I just keep taking note of what I feel like is doing well and catching people's attention and doing that. And my biggest advice would be for anybody, like if there's a girl out there who's in high school and she knows she wants to be one of you two one day, I'm like, take your phone out, walk to the nearest sporting event. It doesn't matter if it's flag football with 6-year-olds, like you can do a hit on it, set your phone up and just talk, get used to it. Every single reporter out there has their first hit that they ever did, and they're like, what the heck?
Oh my gosh, do I remember it?
You just threw me back, and I got a little
literally
legit goosebumps because I was like, woo.
But we all do it, and we all grow from it, and it's really a tremendous part of learning how to become a broadcaster in sports. But nowadays, so many people have access to phones, and you can just do it yourself. Teach yourself how to edit. Watch YouTube University is the greatest school that exists for this career.
Yeah, I love that advice, and I think something that has helped me get over the like, oh, should I post this, should I not post this, especially when I was in college and just doing interviews DIY, right? Was, okay, if I posted this or if my team sat in a film session and watched this on the big screen, like, would it come across as me? Like, just be yourself, right? And I think that's something that I absolutely love that is just so shown through your videos. But I'd love to ask you about your show called Out of His League. Where did this come up with?
It was just like, everybody asked me that, and I'm like, there wasn't one day that I had this light bulb moment, but fully transparently, I was doing content for a year at Barstool Sports about college advice. And I got out of college and realized really quickly, once you get out of college, you don't care about it the way that you did when you were in it. Like I was like, maybe I shouldn't be giving like advice for things to bring to math class anymore. And I really got like the best advice I've ever gotten, that the most successful people in content make content about things that they're genuinely interested in. And I think with my background at BU, then I went to NBC Sports for a bit and Boston 25 Sports. I actually also got hired by Nessun. Never came in for my first day of work because COVID hit, but I was an employee. I think I had an employee number for a day, but then COVID hit and I didn't step in my first day.
Welcome back.
Thank you. But I think just through that and then my personal life growing up with my brother playing hockey, I just met so many incredible women that have game days. And there's a lot of shows out there that will highlight the women working in sports and a lot that will highlight the athletes. But I'm like, there's so many cool wives of athletes and girlfriends of athletes and mothers that and cheerleaders that don't get this attention, that I was like, I don't need to do this box that everybody else is doing. Any girl that has a game day has a story to tell that's unique, that will show the next generation, oh, there is a spot where I can do this. There's something I can do here, because I think today there's more opportunities to be a female involved with a game day than there ever has been before. And 5 years from now, that will continue to be the case, and there'll be a job that doesn't exist right now. So that's really what I wanted to do with my show, is just encapsulate what's being done right now and show the next generation, hey, this could be your life.
And I think that you do a great job of doing it, because for one, the humorous level to it, it breaks the ice. Because I think when we look at something, we're so quick to just put a rigidness to it. Like we glorify being in front of the camera, and while it's fantastic, like you can still have such a foothold in sports and not be in front of the camera. And it's just as important. Like we've got our Queen Jenny who pops up in our ear right now, and like it's just as helpful because they're the visionaries. So I love that you highlight all of these different things. Now, it's probably the worst question to ask a host, but like one of your favorite episodes, because the humorous element to it is just fantastic. Like when I first found your TikTok, I was crying laughing. Like the conversations you have with your boyfriend, in all seriousness, it's how I tortured my brother. I used to wear like soccer t-shirts. It's like, I don't suck up air on the sidelines because I played soccer and he played football. And he, well, he shredded all my t-shirts, but like sometimes you just have to have that fun with it in order to highlight it even better.
Oh my gosh. I'm never going to say that I have a favorite because they're all my favorites for different reasons. But I think it's really cool if you watch the progression from one to the other, because my first one was with Amina Smith, who was with NBC Sports and now is with ESPN. And I really just like fit the mold of her and what I felt like a studio interview would feel like, and like matched her vibe. And with it, I've definitely become more myself, but also I kind of try to emulate my guest's life. So if you go from hers, it feels very in the studio, more professional, and then you fast forward to at a Bruins game with Mason Laurai's sister Zoe, and we're just hamming it up, we're having a drink, we're joking around, and that's what it feels like to be a sister at your brother's game. So I think it's again been a learning experience of seeing what works, and I'm just like naturally, I can't say a sentence without like self-deprecation or cracking a joke, and I'm like, I need to show that me, and I don't think that's really common out there with like typical podcasts or docuseries hosts. So it's just been being me, and again, being true to who you are, and I think that's helped a lot, and also just getting more confident in who I am.
2 whole decades is crazy, and I know this is going to be nearly impossible, but if you think back over that time period, is there one game, one moment, one opportunity for you that really sticks out and you're like, that's going to be one of my favorite days for the rest of my life?
I think what I'm most proud of is just the longevity of being in it, for 20 years. It's one thing to get into the game. It's another thing entirely to stay in the game, much like a minor leaguer, right? The whole point of being in the minor leagues is to get to the big leagues and to get to the show. And then it's very hard to stay in the big leagues unless you're a superstar. And, I think there are moments that have certainly stood out. I mean, I've had the opportunity to cover 7 no-hitters in person, 3 for the team I was covering, 4 against the team I was covering, but I've seen them all in person. I mean, I've covered baseball in 3 different countries, obviously, actually 4, if you consider, the United States, Mexico, Canada, and Australia. I've covered MVPs, I've covered Cy Young Award winners. Just the opportunities that this game has given me has been incredible. And it wasn't even a sport I sought out when I was a kid, and it's just been something that has been incredibly influential and impactful in my life, and very grateful for the 20 plus years of covering this sport, and hopefully not done anytime soon.
Wow, that is an extremely impressive bingo card. I think you could probably check the box on all those things just listening to that. But I'd love to just know a little bit more into maybe your perspective on your career, because you do have that longevity, but there's crucial things that probably had to happen for you to be able to have all those new opportunities. Is there a specific moment in your career where you felt like, if I didn't do fill in the blank, I wouldn't be here today?
I think the biggest thing is having to take the risk on myself, bet on myself. I think if you bet on yourself, you can't lose, right? I was in a completely different industry before I even decided to go back to school and get into journalism. I didn't go back to school to get my master's in journalism until I was 28. I was in sales and marketing before that, and I was just really bored out of my mind, and I just wanted something that was fulfilling. And I woke up one day, it was kind of, in between Christmas and New Year's of 2001, and I said to myself, if there's anything that I could do, what would it be? And I've always been a big fan of sports, not only as a participant, as a runner, but also as a spectator, both in college, high school and college, and then, in my adult life. I've just always enjoyed sports. And I was like, if money wasn't an object, or if I won the lottery and I could do whatever I want, what would it be? And it was sports. And that's when I decided in that moment, it was almost an epiphany, if you will. I decided in that moment I was going to go back to school. I was going to get a master's in journalism, and I was going to start from the bottom and work my way up. And it was a risk that I was willing to take. I bet on myself. I went back to school at 28. I took a second mortgage out on my house to pay for school. And here we are, 2+ decades later of covering the greatest sport in the world. So, I think that's the moment. It was that moment in 2001 where I said, this is what I want to do, and I'm going to do it.
That's such an inspiring story. I love that so much. And if you could go back in time and tell your 28-year-old self who's going back to school, or maybe somebody who this is their dream and this is what they want to do, what would be your advice for them on how to break into this industry?
I think, I told my friend this and I don't know if you girls are familiar with the company Swell, the Swell bottles that, the titanium insulated bottles that everybody had way before Stanley, way before all this stuff came out. Well, Swell Bottle was invented by my friend, Sarah Kaus, and she started that company. And I remember being one of the first people in her tiny apartment in New York City, like fulfilling orders for Swell, some of the first Swell orders that ever came out. And she ended up selling the company not too long ago for a gazillion dollars. But I remember telling her, make a decision, assume it's right, and it will be. And I think that's kind of and I'm certainly not taking credit for the success of Swell. Okay. I'm not saying that, but I remember that conversation with Sarah distinctly, because, she wanted to do this company and she's brilliant. And, I said, make a decision, assume it's right, and it will be. And she ended up turning it into a multi, $1,000,000 corporation. And I think that's what you have to do. If you go about it as something that you're passionate about, you can't go wrong. And I've never felt like this has been a job. I've always felt like it was a career choice. There's a difference between a career and a job. And this is something that has been so incredibly fulfilling. Is it hard work? Absolutely. I mean, that goes without saying. Nobody has had success in this industry that hasn't absolutely worked their butts off. Or they're very few and far between. Let's put it that way. So that's what I would encourage young people to do. What is it that you're passionate about? What is it that you get excited about? That's what you should be pursuing in terms of a career, because it won't feel like work. It's just something that, I get paid to watch baseball, and that's something that's pretty special.
It's definitely very special, and I love that advice that you gave, because I think if it was easy, everyone would be doing it, right? And everyone would have the job that you have, and so it's just so cool to hear the backstory to really the grind. But I love the Swell story, because now every single time I see a Swell bottle, I'm going to be thinking of you. So that is incredible.
She's done really, really, really well for herself. I'm proud of her. Sarah Kaus.
You can put consulting. You can put consulting on your resume as well.
I should have done
I'd love to.
That. As a matter of
Hey,
fact.
you still can. You still can. Well, I'd love to know a little bit about your time in journalism school and just what that period of time taught you, and maybe an experience that has still helped you today.
I think, when I started in journalism, I didn't know what a beat was. I was like, what's the education beat? What's the crime beat? What does that even mean? And I was a very, very, very green reporter. I just knew I wanted to cover sports for a living, and I knew that I wanted to do it on television, but I didn't really understand what all of that meant. I mean, I knew that there was a massive piece of hard work. I knew there was sacrifice. I knew I was going to have to move. I knew all of those things. But I didn't really understand what it meant to be a journalist. And, through my master's program at the University of Colorado and just figuring all of that out, you do get a sense of what that means. And that was a huge learning curve for me. I had not grown up in a journalistic family. I didn't grow up, with a microphone in front of me, in front of the mirror when I was a little kid. Like I didn't even know that this world existed. So like I said, I was in sales and marketing prior to that. And then I was like, I just want something that I enjoy. And it was sports for me. And I had seen obviously other women in the industry. Now there's a lot more of us in the industry than there was 20 years ago. But it's much more commonplace now to have a woman as part of a broadcast team than it ever used to be. So, journalism school was just my way into it. But the work ethic has always been there, and the drive has always been there, regardless of the industry. And I think that's important for people. Whatever it is that you're passionate about, do it to the best of your ability. And that's kind of how I looked at going back to school and getting my master's in journalism. And then honestly, starting at the bottom, there's 200 television markets. I started in, market 142 in Wichita Falls, Texas, and moved my way up from there. I mean, there was a time in which I moved state to state every 2 years for 10 years. So it's a lot of sacrifice. It's a lot of hard work, but there's not a day that I regret the decision to go back to school and get into journalism.
You mentioned earlier that you've been doing this for almost 2 decades. You also mentioned that only superstars can do that for that long. I would classify you as a superstar, for sure. When we think back to, you just mentioned starting at the bottom, how do you feel now looking back on some of your very first pieces of coverage that you've done? And how is it to be able to see the growth of where you are now?
Oh my gosh, so many mistakes, right? I mean, I started, like I said, in Wichita Falls, Texas, which was market 142. And, it's a small Texas town, basically in the Panhandle, about 2 hours north of Dallas, 2 hours south of Oklahoma City. high school football is all the rage in Texas, especially in small towns like that. You heard of Friday Night Lights. I mean, that's Texas, and big NASCAR community. And, the schools there that I covered were either high school or Midwestern State University. They don't have like major schools in the city that I was in. And I remember making mistakes in terms of, one of the NASCAR drivers, his name is Casey Kane, and I called him Casey Caney. Michael Kadire, who obviously is a tremendous Major League Baseball player, I called him Michael Cudyer, I think, the first time I ever said his name. Mark Teixeira, I completely butchered Teixeira's name. I didn't know a lot about the sport when I first started. So in those small markets, you're able to make those mistakes and you're not necessarily going to get crucified because you're in a small market. Now, I could not make those same mistakes now. Obviously working for Nesson or when I was in New York or Los Angeles or those huge markets. I've worked in the number one market in the country. I've worked in the number 142 market in the country. And obviously the development, that's how you move up, is by hard work and dedication and being prepared and research and professionalism and all those things. But I think it's important for people to start at the bottom because you need to understand the commitment it takes to stay in this industry as long as it does. And it's important to understand what everybody else is doing in terms of their own job. I mean, I had to shoot all of my own stuff and edit all of my own stuff. I still write all of my own stuff. No one's telling me what to say and no questions are being told to me. And, I went from not knowing what the heck I was doing to being able to host a 2-hour pregame show or postgame show without a prompter and any notes. But I mean, that's just the part of the life of being in this industry as long as I have it, and the learning curve. And people need to understand everyone wants to do what we do, but not a lot of people understand what it takes to do it and to everyone wants to start in the number one market in the country right away. And that is not realistic. That just does not happen. At least it doesn't happen for most of us.
I love that you just described the purpose that's really in those hidden years, because I think like you're right. Everyone thinks that, I want to be, at a certain place right away. But there's so much value, I think, in being able to make those mistakes early in your career. And now you're saying that does not fly right now in this top market. But I would love to talk about this top market because now you're here in Boston with Nesson. What has that transition been like for you?
It's been a lot of fun because it's not something that I ever expected. When I was with the Dodgers for 7 seasons, it was every single game for the entire year. I mean, I was covering in between spring training, the regular season, obviously the postseason every year, about 200 games. It's a lot. It's a massive grind. And, after the Dodgers won the World Series in 2020, I had to make a decision as to what I was going to do. My now husband, then fiance, his job changed and he was moving back to the East Coast where he's from. And if I was going to stay in Los Angeles, our time was going to be very limited. And, I could have stayed in LA forever. I loved the job. I certainly loved the weather. I loved living where I lived. It's the best place I've ever lived. It was, at that time, the best 7 years I've ever had professionally. But I wanted some work-life balance. My life is very different now. My priorities are very different now than they were when I first started in this industry, when I got my first job in 2004. I think that it's such a great opportunity to be able to join a network and an organization like Nesson and the Boston Red Sox because of the history of the team and the caliber and quality of people that are behind the scenes at Nesson, in front of the camera at Nesson. And, I'm in a kind of a utility role. I bring, all my gloves to the field every day, and wherever they need me to fill in that day, wherever they need me to play, that's where I am. I mean, I'm hosting Unobstructed Views with Jonathan Papelbon and Jared Carrabis, obviously, who everybody knows who Pap is, obviously World Series champion and unbelievable personality. And nobody knows more about the Red Sox and is a bigger fan than the Red Sox than Jared Carrabis. So being able to be on a show with those two has been a lot of fun. But then I'm also hosting pre and post game when Tom Caron needs a day off, and I've been able to work with Lenny DiNardo and Devin Marrero and Will Middlebrooks and doing those types of things. Obviously, we did a batting practice show the other day, which was a lot of fun and different. And then, of course, I'm doing the Nesson broadcast tomorrow for the all women, women's celebration night, which is going to be fun. I've never done color in a booth before, so it's a unique experience for me. And I have all the faith in the world in Emma Tiedemann. She's amazing. She's obviously done play-by-play for a long time. The second the first pitch is thrown, it's just like another day at the office. So I'm excited to do it. But we've been covering baseball for a really long time, and it's been fun to be able to still be in the game and still cover the game I love, but also on a schedule and a timeline that works for me and where I'm at in my life right now. So I'm thankful for the opportunity. I love it. I hope it continues, but I'm just enjoying the ride right now.
I love how much you talked about all the different roles that you've stepped into throughout your time here, because it just shows that you're such a team player in the sports that we cover. And I hope everybody in this industry takes a note of that and they're willing to do that, because that is incredible. But tomorrow you're taking part in the first all-women's broadcast for the Red Sox. We are so excited to see you. What does this mean to you, and what do you hope the impact is on people watching this game in this all-women's broadcast for the first time?
Yeah, I've been asked this question a lot. I was part of the first ever all-female broadcast ever for Major League Baseball back on, Major League Baseball and YouTube TV in July of 2021. It was myself and so in the booth, it was Melanie Newman and Sarah Langs, and then I was the sideline reporter, and then pre and post game hosts were Lauren Gardner and Heidi Watney. So we were the first 5 to ever do it together. It was Baltimore Orioles and Tampa Bay Rays, and it got a lot of attention, a lot of notoriety, and I understand, and it was a unique experience. But at the end of the day, if you put our resumes together, we've covered this sport for decades between all of us. And like I said, the second the first pitch is thrown tomorrow, Emma's going to call ball or strike, or if a ball's in play or whatever, and it's business as usual. And while I think it's exciting and it's unique and it's fun, I personally, and I don't want to speak for anybody, but I personally can't wait until it's just like, you don't even notice that it's an all-female broadcast, right? You just notice like, these are women that happen to know and love the game. And I just happened to tune into NESN, and here we are. While I appreciate the attention and the fanfare and everything, I can't wait till the big deal is not a big deal anymore. And I think we're making strides with that. We certainly are. We're getting there. But we still got a long way to go.
Yeah, I totally agree with you and feel the same sentiment just on even the slogan, like everyone watches women's sports, or even like even the show title, like respect her game, because I think in some senses, like we are in an incredible spot in women's sports and just females in the sport industry, that like we can own that and really walk in it, because like you said, the women on those broadcasts that you were doing years ago with the all-female broadcasts, they've been covering these sports for a while. Like we're here, we've come to that spot. But I think also, respecting the women who might not have had that experience as well. But I'd love to know, just from your own like workflow experience, what does it change and what changes for you on a preparation base when you're on the sideline, you're in a dugout, and now you're going to be in the booth tomorrow?
I have no idea. It's a great question. I don't know, because I've never done this before. So I honestly don't really know how to prepare. I'm going to go in, and I'm going to the game tonight, obviously, and Emma and I are going to sit together and we'll have the discussions and we'll watch the game together. And, obviously she's play-by-play, so she's lead. I'm not a typical color analyst. Like, I'm not going to be breaking down pitch sequences. I'm not going to be talking about why he, choked up on the bat for that backdoor slider. Like, that's just not who I am. And they know that. And I told them that. I'm like, you're not going to, like, Lou Merlone and Will Middlebrooks, their job is safe, right? Like, I'm not coming to be the color analyst for the Red Sox. Like, that's just not, I'm more of a storyteller. I'm more of a, let's talk about these guys as human beings before, people, before players. I'm more of a direct the traffic type of person. I love hosting pre and post game show. I love teeing up my analysts and talking about the game and interjecting my own personal experiences and what I've covered over the course of, 20 plus years or whatever it is in terms of me covering this game. But I have no idea. I don't know how it's going to go, but ask me that question on Wednesday. I'll have a much better idea if I was prepared or not. But I'll be as prepared as I possibly can. I think I know the team, and obviously Emma has a great depth of knowledge of the Red Sox, as well as their farm system, being the play-by-play announcer for the Sea Dogs. And, and I'll lean on her. She can lean on me. And, we have a great crew behind us, and who knows? I have no idea how this is going to go, but we'll see.
And you mentioned that you had a FaceTime call with him after he did get that call up. What was the FaceTime call like, and what was the conversation there between siblings?
So it was funny because Sydney and I were out to get ice cream, and we both missed the call. So I'm like, I looked at my phone, and I'm like, did Mikey? Because first of all, if your brother's calling you, at least I don't know about anybody else, but like he never calls. Like it's like pulling teeth to get him to talk sometimes. But I was like, did Mikey call you? She's like, yeah. And then we immediately kind of looked at each other like, wait, why did he call both of us? Is there something he needs to tell us? Like, what's going on? So we immediately start thinking like, well, what if he got called up, or like just crazy stuff? And then we get on the phone with him, and he's like, yeah, I just wanted to tell you guys, like, I got called up to AAA. And me and Sydney both started like screaming. and hyping him up. And we were like, that's so amazing. Like, he worked so hard. Like, I can't believe it. Like, we were just asking him, like, what's next steps? When do you leave? He's like, I leave tomorrow. So we were like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So we were in shock. Like, when we got off the phone with him, me and Cindy kept talking about it. I was like, I can't believe, like, little Mikey's going to AAA right now. Like, I just can't. It's just crazy to think about.
I love that story, and I have a little brother, and so my sister and I, whenever he FaceTimes both of us at the same time, it's like all hands on deck. You do not know what's going to happen, so I can totally relate to that. And I'd love to know, just what do you think he would say about growing up with sisters, and maybe just how that softball and baseball relationship has brought you guys closer?
Probably just that, like, he saw the hard work firsthand. You know, he saw us driving an hour and a half, 2 hours to training and not getting home sometimes till midnight and still having school the next day. And this was just in high school. Like, we were driving where we needed to go to get, you know, the training we wanted and needed to be elite. And then sometimes it meant sacrificing sleep, but we were willing to sacrifice it. So I think he learned at a young age what that looked like and what it looked like sticking to something and working hard day in and day out. And I would hope that he would say he got to see us, you know, be the athletes we are, compete, and be on the big stage at, you know, the College World Series, and he got to go to all of those. And I would hope he would say, you know, seeing that made him like want it for him with baseball. So, you know, he definitely loved baseball growing up. You know, that's all he wanted to do. If ever he came up to me and wanted to play, he's like, could we play catch? Could we go hit outside? Could we play wiffle ball? Like, he always wanted to do something baseball related.
I'd love to ask you more about that college experience for you specifically, because you were an absolute baller at Michigan, holding so many records. So what was your story about landing there?
So I had saw Michigan play at a tournament in California one year, and I saw Hutch get thrown out. And when she got thrown out of the game, I was like, man, I want to play for her. Like, that's the kind of coach I want to play for. I want her to be like feisty and, you know, always going to have her team's back kind of thing. And that kind of got what put Michigan on my radar. And I ended up playing with a girl on my travel team who ended up going to Michigan. And I really respected her as a person, player, leader. Like, she was just like somebody I looked up to. And so I was like, if she's going to Michigan, I would love to go check it out, see what it's about. Because if she likes it, I feel like I would like it. And so little bit of time goes by, Michigan ends up showing interest, and I wanted to go out there for an unofficial visit. And Michigan was actually the only school who did not offer me before I got there. All the other schools offered me a full ride before I stepped on campus, which was like nice. But when Michigan didn't offer it, it was almost like, why not? Like, it was kind of like, what's going on here? It was kind of like a little cat and mouse chase a little bit. And I was like, okay, like, I want to test this out. I want to go check it out. And I had asked Hutch when I got there, excuse me, you know, why didn't you offer me? I'm just curious, like, why didn't you offer before? Because she ended up offering me a full ride when I was there. She was like, well, I didn't know if I was going to like you. And I was like, I like that answer. Like, I really like that answer. And she was like, yeah, like, I'm not going to offer you a full ride. What if I don't like how you are as a human being? Like, I don't want to bring that to my school. And I just had so much respect for her being that honest with me. And she's just always been that way with me. And that's what I wanted. Like, I wanted someone to not only challenge me as a softball player and a school that was going to challenge me as a student, but also help me grow as a woman. And I felt like Hutch was going to do that, and she was going to challenge me and help me grow into who I wanted to be.
And I feel like that level really kind of propels you into what comes next. So you mentioned like Hutch, of course, but was she one of the most influential coaches you've had in your career? Would you kind of put your finger on that?
Oh yeah, for sure. Her and my travel ball coaches, for sure, like Mike Stith and Mark Campbell. Those were some of the top three, definitely most influential. And then of course my dad. My dad was our coach ever since we were little. But definitely, as far as a coach outside of family, Mark Campbell, Mike Stith, and then Carol Hutchins, my college coach. And all three of them had huge impacts in my playing career.
I love that, because you're playing at the highest level. You're in the College World Series. Now you're, a pro. And I think it's still so valuable for young athletes to hear, hey, you can always be growing your game and evolving and listening to coaching, because it's so important. So maybe what advice would you give young girls, or even your younger sister who's still in college ball, for still taking advice and growing your game, even when you might think I've reached my peak?
Yeah, just being open to it. I mean, I'm still constantly doing different workouts, trying different diets, trying different things with my hitting, with my defense. Like, I just want to continue to grow and get better. And the game has changed a lot since I was in college. There's more technology now. I wasn't much of like a technology person before, but like, you have to go with the times, and technology is a huge part of scouting now, and just trying to figure out even, excuse me, for myself, how to utilize that and how to use it to my advantage has been fun, but challenging. But I just encourage everyone to keep wanting to grow. Because the thing is, all the other athletes out there are, and they're taking advantage of things, and they're getting better, and you don't want to be left behind just because you're not willing to budge on something.
You mentioned the technological advancements and all that kind of stuff. I am curious, obviously you were in college a few years ago. Your sister Sophia is there now. Do you notice a difference in the path that's kind of presented to her with her career versus your softball upbringing, I guess, for a lack of better terms? What's the differences that you see, and how happy are you that Sophia, has a road ahead of her?
I would say the biggest thing that I've noticed a difference in, which I think now college kids are just having to figure out how to manage it, because I would imagine like in college it's hard to manage, but you're given so much information now. Like in college I was given information, but I don't feel like it was like information overload because we didn't have the technology for it. Now it's like you're given so much that every little thing that could possibly be wrong, and you almost want to try to fix every little thing, which I don't think is always a good thing. So there's times where Sydney and I will talk to Sophia and just like try to get her to simplify things a little bit more, because Sophia's like us, like we're perfectionists. And I couldn't imagine having all that information when I was in college, because if I feel good, then I feel good. Like I'm not trying to change anything, but sometimes with too much technology, you can definitely start to want to fix things that maybe don't need to necessarily be fixed just yet, or, don't try to fix it if it's not broken, kind of thing. But Sophia, she's a really smart player. She knows her swing, and she's wanting to get better and evolve. And she's done that this offseason. She's sent us clips of her hitting. She's wanting to change different aspects of her game and try to be better and grow. And I think that that's where it's been really cool for her to just see her taking all this new stuff now in college and running with it and just trying to be the best player she can.
Hey, I would love to see all three of you on the same AU team at some point. That would just be absolutely incredible down the line. So you have to keep playing for that to happen, or maybe you could jump in as a coach. So we'll see. But you did mention off-season workouts and just the rigor of those. And I'm not super familiar what maybe cross-training or off-season looks like for a softball player. So what would you say is the hardest workout that a softball player might do, or drill might do, in the off-season?
I'm gonna shout out my app right now. Everything I do on my app, I have a softball development app, the 32 Approach. It is like, those are the hardest things I've ever done. Those are the hardest workouts I've done. That's the hardest kind of schedule and routine I've stuck to. That's, I'm exhausted by the end of the week, and like those are exactly what I do. It's different agility training, it's speed work, it's weightlifting. It's still conditioning. It's all of those things, because like we have to be powerful, but we also need to be explosive. Like you need to be able to move and be agile. Like all these different things go into it. So like your training has to look like that too. Like if you're just lifting heavy weights constantly, that doesn't mean you're going to be fast. You're not going to have those quick twitch muscles that you need in our sport. So it's really important to train all the above. And I know that that's hard for people to find, which is exactly why we came out with the app. But that app is exactly what I do. So that's been definitely the best part of my training, just to keep consistently doing that every single day in my off season.
I love that. You said I'm going to shout out the app. Shout it out, because I think that's incredible. And you call it the 32 Approach. Can you kind of explain the reason you called it that, and a little bit more about why you decided to come up with it?
Yeah, I just take a lot of pride in how I do like my business and how I handle myself as a pro. And I think I do things the right way. And, I'm always trying to help everybody and help everyone win, and including myself. And so the hardest part as a pro has been finding something that does everything the 32 Approach does. So, it has basically a really good strength and conditioning program. Excuse me, it has the drills, it has all those things. But what we wanted to do was, yes, make it so the pros could use it. And usually the pros really focus on like the strength and conditioning aspect of it. But I was really blessed to grow up in California, which is like softball mecca. So I had access to so many different things, so many facilities, and all the things that I needed. And when I traveled after I graduated from Michigan and I hosted camps, I noticed like so many travel ball organizations and just kids in general, like these girls didn't have access to good training. And so I was like, well, I can't be in every state at once putting on camps trying to tell these kids what to do. Like, what's another way we could go about it? And so that's kind of how the app was created. The app has hitting, defense, speed and agility. It has catching, pitching, and then it also has strength and conditioning on there. So it basically is showing a breakdown of every drill that I think makes a good hitter, good defender. And then we have like a pitching coach in there. I don't know pitching, so we gave that to somebody else and have someone, qualified to do that. And then we have my strength coach in there doing the strength and conditioning aspect of it. But I wanted it to be affordable for all athletes because I know that softball is expensive, bats, gloves, lessons are expensive. And so we wanted the app to be kind of like all in one. So that way they can get everything and it's a calendar and you don't have to ask every day, I don't know what to do today for training. It's already put on your calendar every single day. And if you want it to be a heavy day, make it a heavy day. If you want it to be a light day because you're tired, like you can adjust it accordingly.
One time a mutual friend of ours said, if we had met under different circumstances, we'd be great friends. I'm not going to tell you. It's after hours. You know who that was. Why? Why are you asking me this? And they were right. This mystery person was right, that Maria knows. But let's talk about Maria, the player in person. She was and by the way is, the definition of professionalism. We had a call actually scheduled at 11 o'clock a.m., and she called me at 11 o'clock a.m. It wasn't 11:01, it wasn't 10:59, it was right on time. She's always on time, always focused, always disciplined, right on the dot, always prepared. That's Maria. And when she stepped on the court, she gave absolutely everything she had. It didn't matter if she was playing the world number 1 or the world number 300. She showed up with the same determination every single time. She didn't get caught up in the gossips and the distractions. She wasn't swayed by the headlines. She was there for one reason, to be the best, to win, and to compete. That was Maria. And that's exactly what she became. In 2005, just after 1 year after winning Wimbledon, Maria climbed to world number 1. Think about that, a teenager, less than 18 months removed from her breakthrough, standing on top of the sport. That takes focus, fearlessness, confidence, which Maria has, and unbelievable discipline to rise that fast. She never let go of that standard, and I always admired that. She went on to win Wimbledon, the US Open, Australian Open, and eventually she mastered the surface that humbled her most, the clay. In fact, I would always tell myself, give 100% like Maria. Focus, focus, focus. If she can do it, you can. Yes, Maria, you were inspiration to me, and without even knowing it, you always inspired me when I went out there because I knew if I could just focus like you, I could do well and I could win. So thank you so much for that. Maria's journey on clay simply made me better. Maria once famously said she felt like a cow on ice playing on clay. And I'm sorry, but listen, I did play you before once on clay, and you weren't wrong. But here's the difference. Maria did not accept that as a weakness. Quietly behind the scenes, she made it her single most important mission. She turned her greatest vulnerability into her greatest weapon. She took that legendary mental toughness, the same toughness that she showed every opponent, and she pointed it right at the clay until it gave in. And she conquered it, not once but twice. 2 French Open titles. That's who Maria is. Make your weakness your strength. That's her. That's her legacy. And the more I've gotten to know Maria, the more I realize how much we share. Champions actually always have a lot in common. I once asked her, how does she celebrate her wins? And she looked at me and she said, celebrate? What does that even mean? She was always focused on the next goal, the next title, the next challenge, and honestly, that sounded a little too familiar. And when I asked her if she celebrated her retirement, she shot back, "Did you?" We both laughed because no, we both knew that without answering that neither one of us did. Champions do not live in the rearview mirror. We do not look back. We keep going, we keep adapting and thinking about our next win. Champions move forward, champions live in the present. Maria was and is the personification of that. Maria's impact goes far beyond the court. She won 5 Grand Slam titles, as we already know, and that's what we call the career Grand Slam, which is something only a handful of players are able to do. Scroll a little bit, thank you. She became the world number 1 at just 18 years old, something I never did, and she held that spot for 21 weeks in her career. Maria won 36 WTA titles, earned over $38 million in prize money, and spent more than a decade ranked inside of the top 10. She was also an Olympic medalist, winning silver at the 2012 Olympic Games. Well, security, please. And beyond the numbers, Maria was the most recognized and admired athletes on the planet. She was the highest paid female athlete in the world for 11 straight years. And she showed us all how to take excellence on the court and turn it into excellence in business and fashion and branding and everything that she touched. She inspired young girls around the globe and inspired them in the world that if she can do it, they can do it too. She could win on the biggest stages, then they could too, and they could conquer new ones. She changed how women not only approached tennis, but sport and opportunity. She showed us that you can be fierce on the court and strategic off the court and unapologetically yourself the entire time. And she always did it with her head high, proud, strong, classy, and yes, with that signature grunt. And today, her biggest joy isn't only a trophy, it's her son Theodore. She's taken that same focus, that same fire, and poured it into being a mom, a great mom, steady, calm, and thoughtful. She actually reminds me a lot of Venus, and the more I get to know her, the more I think about the things we share and we can share in the future. Maria's honest, she gets to the point quickly, she's earnest, she's loyal, she's family-oriented, and at her core, she's just a great person. If I didn't know her better, I think she could have been my sister, the yin to my yang, the calm to my storm. So don't be surprised when I'm calling her with all the dramas in my life, because that's what sisters do. So what started as a rivalry turned into an enormous amount of respect. And what grew from respect has turned to friendship. And like I said, champions adjust. Maria didn't just win matches, she built a legacy that will last forever. Last year, I asked Maria to be my tennis ball. And I think this is her way of saying yes. So tonight is my honor as her former rival, her former fan, and now her forever friend, and one of the world's greatest sports heroes of all times and champions, to welcome Maria Sharapova into the International Tennis Hall of Fame. Congratulations.
Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed those interviews. So insightful, so great to learn so many different perspectives when it comes to making, well, a big mark when it comes to women in broadcasting. We learned so much from Alanna Rizzo. We learned so much from Kat Ellis. And then also just being able to see Serena Williams show up in such a magical moment. She talked about it on social media, how important it was for her to show up for Sharapova. So we're just seeing the ways that women continue to pave paths across the board. And that's exactly what Respect Her Game is here for. So thank you guys for tuning in on this Labor Day. Hope everyone enjoys their holiday. Stay safe, and we'll catch you back here on Respect Her Game.